Hi, everyone. My name is Jamie West, and I'm with the Substitute Management Advisory Council. On today's Substitute Scoop podcast, we're going to talk to Sean Petro from Columbia County School District, learn a little bit about his fill rates, retention efforts, and more. So here's the scoop. So, Sean, if you could tell us a little bit about your school district, your role, where you're coming from, let's learn about the substitute world in Columbia County Schools.
Sure. Well, thank you for having me, Jamie. I really appreciate being on your podcast. Again, my name is Sean Petro. I'm the Assistant Chief Human Resource Officer with the Columbia County School District. We're a suburb of Augusta, Georgia. A lot of people know Augusta because of the Masters golf tournament. We have we like to think it's the best golf tournament in the world. But it's really a neat thing to have in our city and see how it kind of transforms the city during that week during the Masters. We're a pretty, medium to large size school district. We're the 15th largest school district in Georgia. We serve a little under 30,000 students. We have about 500 or so subs in our pool, and we're really proud of what we do in our county. We're generally considered one of the top academic counties in the state. We perform at really high levels, and that's something we're very proud of.
That's awesome. I love that. And so when you talk about academics and high academics in your county and those awesome goals and just all the spotlight and highlight on your academics, where do your substitute teachers fall in with academics? Do you train and develop them into helping towards those goals, or how do they fall into that?
Yeah, so substitutes play a very integral role in the success of school districts. I tell them that. I do the training myself when we initially onboard them. So that's a really big component. I tell them, I'm like, you are vital to our success. It's kind of gone the day of the sub rolling in the television with the VCR and putting in the tape and doing those kind of things. That's kind of gone. We really want our subs managing the classroom and providing great instruction while our teachers are out. Now, what we do, a lot of our short-term subs, those are going to be like your maternity leaves and those kind of things. We fill those with certified teachers. We have a really good retirement population here that'll come back and work after they retire. So we're filling a lot of those jobs with certified teachers, and then we also are real strategic with the people we choose to put in our classrooms. For example, if we have a healthcare science teacher, basically they teach students about healthcare fields, nursing being the predominant one. We don't have a lot of substitutes that are certified in that field, but we have some certified nurses, registered nurses who are subs. So we'll bring them in and teach that class. So we really, if we don't have a certified teacher, we really try to be strategic about who we're selecting to go in the classroom, because again, we want them strengthening our academics and being a vital role to the success in those endeavors.
I love that. I love that. And I know you mentioned you have 500 substitutes. I mean, that's a
Mhm.
decent size substitute pool. And you're talking about being able to be selective on where you put those subs and where you ask them to go. How does that affect your fill rates? What are your fill rates looking like going into leaving the 24-25 school year and going into 25-26?
Yeah, so our fill rates right now are right around 85%. So we're proud of that. Uh, I hate to keep using kind of COVID as a line in the sand, pre-COVID, post-COVID, but
Yeah.
before COVID, we had about a 95% fill rate. And we've just been kind of inching back up towards that
Mhm.
since that time period. Right after that time period, our fill rates were very low, probably 65% or maybe even a touch lower than that. But like I said, we've crept up. We do our own training, so we are turning subs over at a very steady rate. We have trainings almost every month that we bring in both certified and non-certified substitutes into our pool. So we're constantly, even though 500 sounds like a strong number, we really have a working population of about 200 on any given day.
Okay.
So because people, they choose subbing for the flexibility and those kind of things. So we don't have 500 that work every day, but we get a working population, probably of about 200. So we're constantly trying to increase that pool and make it larger.
I love that, I love that, and obviously, we know the more numbers, the more likelihood you have of a larger group subbing, right? The more subs, the more
Absolutely.
active ones you'll get, but, what is it that you're doing to enhance that communication and encouraging that current sub population that you have to sub more often? Are there different practices that you have in place to help encourage them to sub more?
Yeah, absolutely. We try to really be on a first name basis with our subs, if that makes sense. We want them to feel as part of the faculty as anyone else. So during our teacher appreciation weeks, if the principals are giving out popcorn and that kind of thing, they give it to the subs.
Mhm.
The subs are allowed to come into our break rooms and drink our coffee and eat our snacks that we have. If there's any kind of professional development for our short-term subs who again are filling those maternity leaves and what have you, we're inviting them to it. Any kind of professional development, we're making sure they're engaged. We're being very informative on the students in their classrooms. If they are in a co-teaching environment, we're letting them kind of have access to the students' information, within following the policies and procedures of IEPs and all that thing. And what have you. But we want our substitutes to feel very informed, and then also we communicate with them pretty regularly. Like if we have a big professional development day and we know we're going to have more absences, we're shooting that email out to the subs saying, "Hey, we really need you guys to step up to the plate here on March the 4th because we're having this big professional development in our school district." We also communicate with them with our short term needs. If I know I have a process that where schools can fill out an assistance form. So they basically, the way it works in our school district is they try to get a sub on their own first. But if they
Mhm.
can't fill that sub, I don't want adding more stress to somebody who may be going out for a maternity leave or a critical illness. I don't want to add more stress to them. So once they've kind of done their due diligence, they fill out this form, and then I'm sending that communication out to our subs saying, "Hey, I need a elementary school teacher from February 2nd to April the 15th. If you're interested, please let me know." So we just constantly try to stay in contact with them. I also shoot them emails that's kind of like, "Hey, we had a great sub fill rate day," or "This month we increased over last month. I really appreciate all the work you're doing." Those kind of just positive emails to let them know that because subbing, you can feel disconnected at times. So we want them to
Mhm.
feel as connected as possible.
I love that. I love just communication is key. We know that we're in
Yeah.
HR, right? So
Yeah.
communication is literally the key to success, especially for somebody who this is not their full-time job. So
Yeah.
they probably, I mean, you're going to have a lot of subs who haven't been on a school campus in 3 or 4 weeks and they're coming back and they're like, okay, what's going on in this classroom today? So I do love that you communicate all of that and you constantly are encouraging them. I think that's another thing that, like you said, they feel like they're misplaced or maybe forgotten about. And so the
Mhm.
fact that you are constantly encouraging them and communicating with them, I think helps fill that void for them, and gives that almost that sense of community that maybe they wouldn't get in a large school district. But you sound like you're still giving that sense of small town community, which is fantastic. Um,
Yeah, and a lot of our
yeah,
subs, they'll kind of we don't mandate they sub at a certain number of schools or anything like that. So a lot of our subs will stay kind of close to where they live or maybe where their kids go to
yeah.
school, so they do feel a part of that community. Many of our subs won't sub at all our schools; they'll only sub at a couple, and I think that helps their familiarity with the faculty, with the setting, with the students, all that.
I do love that. I think that's fantastic. And one of the things that we've noticed as a council is when we do even just sub surveys and different things, and we hear from different districts that do surveys, one of the things they always talk about is when they feel welcome and happy at that school, especially if they're brand new to that school and they walk on campus and they feel welcome, then they're coming back. It's not necessarily what's happening in the classroom or if there weren't lesson plans left for them. They can usually overcome that. That's why they took on the role as a sub. They want to feel that community. And I love hearing that you guys do that. Hey, y'all. Sorry to interrupt this episode, but I wanted to give a shout out to the sponsor of the Substitute Scoop podcast, Red Rover. Red Rover makes smart, easy to use software that helps K 12 schools handle the important stuff like hiring, absences, and time tracking. Over 1,500 districts have already made the switch. If you're interested in learning more, go to redroverk12.com to schedule your free demo today. I did want to ask because for a district your size, you do a lot of training, you do a lot of coaching, there's a lot of interaction between district level and schools. So, are you training your on campus site, like the school level HR or sub managers, like the front office staff, on how to manage subs, the customer service piece? Do they get any kind of training on how to treat subs?
Yeah, so we definitely provide them information on when you can get a sub. We have certain policies and procedures of when you can get a sub, for so many hours or what have you. We also communicate with them about our different processes we have in place, like how to secure a sub, how
Mhm.
to request if you need help. I also have a feedback form. So the way I kind of let our subs know is, the principal is the king and queen of their castle, right? So
Yeah.
if they have an issue or whatever, and they want to remove you from their school or what have you, we have a form for that too, and they fill it out. I contact the sub and those kind of things. So yeah, I would say I feel like we do a pretty good job of,
Mhm.
of training our local people that work with subs.
Mhm.
Could we do a better job? Probably. But I feel like it's also kind of a train the trainer system.
Yeah.
We have a lot of people in our school district that have been here for a while, and they kind of know the ins and outs of things. And I've been in this role for 9 years, so a lot of people call me all the time. They know I do subs in our district, so they'll call me and ask me a situation. We'll work through it. And I've always really prided myself on being very collaborative in nature. So I would just say that we pretty much work through any issue or problem that we have, and we're always looking. And I tell my substitutes and I tell everybody that I work with, it's a very organic process. If I'm not doing something correctly or I can do
Mhm.
something better, just let me know, and we will look at that and examine if that's a practice we need to put in place. So again, just communicating. I can't emphasize that enough, that we just really lean heavily onto our communication to make our program as best it can be.
I do. That's just fantastic. It's just fantastic. Communication really is key to any organization, and it sounds like
Mhm.
you guys are just doing great with that. Speaking of communication, I know this is kind of a different topic than talking about fill rates and the program in general. Is I know you guys do a lot of recognition and recognizing those subs, and that is another piece of communication, right? So, how is it that you recognize subs who are doing awesome? How is it that maybe you do something at the end of the year for them, or do you do any kind of special trainings or parties, or just for holidays recognize them? What is it that you do in your district?
Yeah, so again, that's going to be more of a grassroots effort, right? So
Mhm.
that's going to be more of an effort at each individual school that they do, because we could always bring them in at the district level and do a big party for them if we wanted to, but it's more meaningful if it comes from the schools that they actually serve, and that's what we try to do during our teacher appreciation week. Make sure that we're bringing our subs in, making sure that if you're having a cookout for Teacher Appreciation Week, invite the subs that sub at your school on a regular basis. And our principals do a really good job of that. That they make the subs feel almost a part of their well, not really almost, like a part of their faculty.
Mhm.
And so any of those endeavors that we're doing for our teachers, we just do it with our subs too, because they are teachers. They're not like a different population or a different employee. We
Yeah.
consider them teachers just as much as we do our certified teachers, because what we're doing, and this is one thing I'm really proud of, is we're recruiting them. We want them to be our teachers of the future. So our sub pool, we're not only it's a two-way street, right? Like, they're serving a purpose, helping us manage our classrooms, but we're also trying to serve them by helping them get into education, providing a glimpse of what it would be like to be a full-time certified teacher. So we treat them like that anyway, because we're hoping that they're gonna, morph into that. And I
Mhm.
think probably every school district should be really relying on their substitute program as a talent pool for their certified positions.
Oh, yeah. Amen. I'm glad to say that and hear that as a recruiter through and through. I think we do use that in multiple districts, and we hear that in multiple districts that
Mhm.
a lot of people are using that as a grow your own pipeline. and
Yep.
as a future teacher pool. And it works out very well because they feel like part of the community already by the
Hmm.
time they've made that certification transition and become a teacher. So I absolutely love hearing that. We're getting close to closing out, but before we go, I wanted to really ask you, and I love asking sub managers, especially the district level, if you have any advice or just maybe your why that you can share in regards to sub management. Let's say you have a brand new sub manager who's listening to this podcast today. They're new to the district, have never really managed subs before. Maybe they were a teacher previously or somewhere else in the district. And so this is new to them. What advice would you give them off the bat to make sure that they are purpose driven in everything that they do in regards to substitute management?
Sure. Well, substitute teaching is important to me because I actually did it. I was a substitute teacher while I was going back and getting my master's degree in school counseling. So I did that, while I was in grad school. So it's very important to me. I've kind of come full circle managing this program. But if I was giving any advice to anyone, it would be that be prepared. The world favors the prepared. So make sure, like me, I've already got all my sub training classes scheduled for the whole year, for school year 26. Also, lean on other people. Like, don't do it yourself. For me, when I'm doing my sub training classes, I bring in instructional coaches at the middle, at the elementary, middle, and high school level. So we actually have instructional coaches that are in the building. I've been in this role for 9 years. So I left the schools 9 years ago. A lot has changed in 9 years. So I bring in people that are actually have their boots on the ground. That way they are letting my substitutes know what the schools are expecting of them. Also, I'm very honest with my substitutes. I would say be very honest with them. Let them know that there's going to be situations that you may not know the answer to. And I try to have a real humanistic quality when I speak with subs. I'm saying, you know, kids are going to get over on you. It's going to be okay. Like, you're going to have a kid skip a class, or you're going to have a kid write a fake note, or you're going to have a kid, tell you no, or something like that. And I'm like, it's okay. Like, don't beat yourself up about it, because certified teachers that have been teaching for 15 years have the same things happen to them too. So, go in there, do the best you can. I tell them, be confident. We've prepared you well. Now, the first day is probably going to be a little bumpy, because this is your first time doing things, and if you're not a certified teacher, a lot of times it may be the first time you've stepped foot in a school since you were in school. So that can be a little scary. I remember a substitute teaching and going in and being really nervous, and so I just tell them, act confident. Be prepared. It is okay to make mistakes. It is okay to ask for help. And I would say that same thing to a sub manager. It is okay to make mistakes. It is okay to ask for help. Don't do it all yourself, because anybody who's managed a sub program, and I've managed this one for 9 years, they'll tell you that it is a lot. Like, managing,
Mhm.
500 subs, managing, we have probably 150 to 200 vacancies a day, just managing everything that goes with it. It's a lot. So, engage with people that can help you. If you're, if you have clerical staff that can help you, or anything like that. And then I would also say, just make sure, like, the way you do subs, the way you, like, have your procedures in place, like, follow that stuff. Now, don't be so rigid that you won't have the agility to change if you feel like there's a better way. But, stick to your practice, stick to your process, because that will help you kind of navigate the sub, just the sub ecosystem, because it is an ecosystem. It's moving, ebbs and flows. You're bringing people in, you're separating people because they quit or they move, or
Mhm.
whatever. But I would just say, just be prepared, and kind of stick to your process, and it's okay. And if you need any help, you can call me, or you can call probably people in your school district, and we can discuss it, and we can pretty much get through anything.
I love that. That's fantastic. And I love that you talk about ebbs and flows because as a sub manager, I know, man, through and through. So I completely understand that. I think that is fantastic advice. And just a great way to start as a substitute manager is you just you have to just start, right? Everybody has to start
Mhm.
somewhere. So, thank you so much, Sean, for being on the Substitute Scoop today. We are glad to have you. And thank you to our listeners for tuning in. And that is the Substitute Scoop.